Okay, so we're probably gonna fumble a bit here. Go down to settings, installation settings, thresholds, and in here you'll find some of the options. I have the heat cool minimum delta that basically sets how far or how close you want to allow your heat and your AC to be if you have it on auto mode. So I set that within 5 degrees. Configure staging manually. Aux heat max outdoor temperature. So what this does is if it's above 32 outside, it will never run aux, and that's a good way to save money. Of course, aux heats up a little bit faster, but obviously costs more money, so it never uses aux if it's above 32 for the most part, though I do have a few other settings I'll show you. Compressor minimum run cycle, that is how long. If the compressor kicks on, even if you shut it off, it won't shut it off right away to avoid short cycling, which is bad for the compressor. So 300 seconds, if it kicks on at all, it will run for a minimum of 300 seconds before it shuts off. Minimum outdoor temperature, I don't have that because that's more for outdoor air. Compressors, not the liquid ones that run through the ground like we have. AEC overcool max. Allow conditioner to overcool to decrease humidity. You can program it so that way if your house is too humid, it can cool the house more than what you're calling for to lower the humidity, but I just disabled that. Heat differential temperature. Minimum temperature before it kicks the heat on, I set it to 1 degree. So that way if it's 68 setting and it drops to 67, then it will kick on. But if it's 67.5, it won't. You can turn that up or down, but you don't want to go too high with it because then it will potentially have to kick into stage 2 or something because you went too far for the stage 1 to heat up. Too low will create short cycling. So I found 1 to be the perfect for my house, but you can always play around with that with your own house. Heat dissipation time, that's how long after the furnace runs, gets done running, how long you want the blower to keep running because there's still heat in the ductwork basically. Again, you want to kind of play with that in your own house, how long it takes before it starts blowing cold air when it shuts off. That's kind of hard to tell with geothermal though, because the air is never really super warm. So I had learned that back when I was on fuel oil, that it took about 90 seconds. Aux min on time. So again, this same thing. If it does kick on aux, it won't run for less than 5 minutes. That way it doesn't damage the equipment. Cool differential temperature is the same as the heat. Minimum temperature differential before engaging cooling. So if you have your heat or your cooling set to say 70 and it gets to 71, then it will kick on, but not 70.5 or 71.5, but you can program that depending on what works best for your house. Cool dissipation time is the same as heat, how long after it stops running the compressor that it continues to run the fan to empty the vents of that hot or cold air. Compressor minimum on time, same thing. If it does kick on, it will not run for less than 5 minutes on the compressor. Compressor reverse staging off, I don't know what that means exactly, but that's what Dandelion told me to program it. Compressor stage 2 differential, this is a big one. Basically, I have it so if my heat is calling for 1 temperature, it will never kick in stage 2 unless that temperature is more than 3 degrees off of the temperature that I'm requiring. So if I set the heat to 69, it will only run stage 1 as long as the house is 67 or warmer. If it drops to 66, then it will kick on stage 2, or if I turn it up 3 degrees higher than the current temperature. But then additionally, you can set stage 1 max runtime if you want, which I have disabled because I'm using that, where if it doesn't heat the house within, you can program it to say an hour, you would disable this setting here, set that to auto, and then you can program this to say run for, if it doesn't heat with stage 1 in 10 minutes, then kick in stage 2, or you can go up to, you know, I think 102 hours. So that's you can choose one or the other setting, but you can't choose both. Compressor to aux delta, minimum number of degrees from the desired temperature before it kicks in aux. So again, sort of like the stage 2, it will not kick stage 2 on unless it's more than 3 degrees off of what my desired temperature is, and it won't kick aux on unless it's more than 10 degrees, which this has worked for me. I've never had to use aux except one time when we accidentally, I set an automation that accidentally shut our heat off totally. We got home and it was like 56 degrees or 54 degrees at my house, and I had to use aux to heat the house, but that was the only time. Aux revert staging, again, Dandelion told me to keep that off, don't know what it does. Temperature correction, that's if you use like a calibrator and you realize that the temperature of your Ecobee isn't quite right, whether it's because temperature coming out of the wall or it's too close to a vent or something like that, you can adjust it up or down. So if your Ecobee is reading 70, but it's actually 71, you can adjust the delta on this, or the adjustment to be wherever you need it to be. Humidity correction is the same as temperature if you know this thing is reading the wrong humidity. Thermal protect, minimum temperature reading difference between sensors that will trigger the algorithm to ignore inaccurate sensor readings. What that does is, if you have multiple Ecobee room sensors and one of them is 10 degrees off of the others, it will start ignoring that sensor, which is good for, say, if a room got left open, it's not trying to heat that room up. You know, if a window got left open or something, or cool that room too much, all because, you know, the rest of the house is fine in that one room, or if it glitches out somehow and reads a temperature that's inaccurate. And that's all. I don't know what installer code does. I just have it disabled, but those are basically all the settings that you can kind of play around with. Be careful with some of them because they can screw things up if you don't set the right deltas and all that, but that's sort of the gist of it. So if you have any questions, let me know.